I was in Krakow this time. Went
Take
to
your
his
glasses
apartment.
off.
Huh?
Glasses.
I was in his apartment. He said, "You want to go and see my girlfriend?" I said, "I'll go with you." So this was his Zuckerman. So I go with him in the apartment, and there's a little kid there. I look at her, I didn't recognize her at the moment. And then she has a scar over her eyes. I remember she was bleeding. I said, "Oh my God!" This, and all of a sudden the father walks in. I said, "Oh gosh, this is this kid there, you know."
This is the one.
She is the day in Belgium. Yeah, this is the one I said. The mother got killed. The mother, they exchanged it with somebody from Madrid. You remember Dr. Lax, maybe? A woman?
No.
We exchanged her with another woman. The other woman escaped and she went instead of her.
And the little girl.
And the little girl, she was there, you know, because they took her back from the Polacks. She had hidden by the Polacks. And they come to the apartment and she's there. Today she's in Belgium somewhere, a woman already, you know. Never met her anymore.
Okay.
The mother died.
Okay.
Okay, so it seems we're going to do a second interview because since the two of you were in Bindemithel, your memory seems to be jarred by lunch.
Okay.
So let's start with, you seem to remember some of the neighbors who lived near my mother, some of the, you have a little memory of the doctors' names, and anything incidental like this is good. Names of doctors, names of dentists, names of the people that you knew, what happened to them. Anywhere you want to start like this. The name of the doctor.
The name of the doctor, one doctor was Dr. Elber, the other was Dr. Reiner. And they both worked in the ambulance. And like Genia was in the ambulance, and my wife worked in the ambulance as a nurse.
Now a question. Do you remember how they got, you said earlier that you didn't remember if there was an employment office. And then during lunch you seem to remember that there was something upstairs.
I remember, there was an employment office, but I don't even remember what kind of jobs they were
That's
having
okay. But
there were certain jobs they had there. People worked in the offices, people worked in the magazines, in the warehouses there, in the ambulance.
So there was more than likely someone who sent them out, but
Yeah.
you just don't remember
They
who it
assigned
was.
some jobs to certain.
Okay, Mom, you remember who sent them out?
Yes. My future husband was the employment
Agent.
so-called employment
Agent.
He was the one that you would come in at about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and he would send some people to do certain jobs. And obviously he was the one that sent the people to the truck with the nurses and the doctors, which was some people would paint not sufficient, not terribly important jobs. For instance, I was not a trained nurse, but I helped the dentist as an assistant.
You remember the name of the dentist?
No, not
Okay.
at all. It was a Russian dentist that came from Russia. This was already very close to 1946, and I was the one that handed him the instruments.
Okay. You remembered who lived next door to my mother. What did
Next door, your mother
you
I was think he was...
the rabbi?
No, I don't remember the rabbi.
Bella?
Stella lived someplace.
No, Bella.
Huh?
Who? I heard you talking about a Bella.
Oh, Bella Brav. Bella Brav
Yeah?
was her name, yeah. She was next door.
Now, what made you think of that?
No, because we were talking about Australia, about all these friends. They came up with them, her husband, they visited me from Australia here. And his brother, we had experienced a trip from Poland. We went from Poland to Vienna. We had a big, experience with the Russians there. They tried to rob us there once, you know.
What
They
happened?
took us on a truck, you know. We were walking. We wanted to go back to Austria, and they came along with the truck, and we stopped them, and they took us there. But we had a big leather satchel, big suitcases, you know, and they were looking for this, and they said, you know. Oh, now we have to push the truck. You have to get off the truck. We're going downhill, and then we have to push the truck. You know, which was just rules to make us get off the truck. But we were smart. You know, we jumped off the truck and said, no, "You go there. We don't need you
Now,
anymore."
were you in Bindermichel at the time this happened?
No, this was on the road from Czechoslovakia to the next train station or whatever happened there. I don't remember exactly.
Now,
Was this
you wanted to know the story about my blouse, after my operation?
sure?
We were, you know, after certain hours, between us, we asked who can play any instrument, any little instrument. We didn't have big instruments. So some of the boys said, I can play a little accordion, I can play a little violin, I can play whatever. And we created a little tiny orchestra, and about 7 or 8 o'clock, whatever it was, we had one square room. And in that room we gathered, and we didn't know even each other, but we perked and we started dancing. Now, I think I was about 17, and at that time the Red Cross, the Hayas, the Ort gathered clothes and gave everybody some to wear, because they took away those filthy things that they gave us in Mauthausen. And I remember that I had a white blouse from the Red Cross, and a nice young man invited me to dance. I was 17, he might have been 18. And you know, we as young people, nowadays teenagers, so we danced a little bit. Prior to that, I was operated by the Germans, by the Austrians, pardon me, on a gallbladder operation under the watchful eye of 2 American doctors, because at the time, this was right after the war, they still were killings. So the American doctors were watching while they were operating on me. And my wound would not heal because of the no nourishment. So I walked around with a suture. And it was covered, but it was still leaking. And here I am dancing away with this young man. And when we finished, to our surprise, his white shirt and mine white only blouse has 2 big yellow spots, which was a tragedy. We went to the office and they gave us new ones. Now it sounds a little funny, but at that time it was a tragedy.
Okay. You want to tell me the story about Daddy's, before I start, Daddy's roommate?
Daddy's roommate
And his name?
is maybe not, because not everybody understands shit.
Well, that's
I
okay.
don't understand.
No, that's okay.
They
It's a good
understand.
story. It's a good story.
Well, when we
It's
got
translated.
the project we lived in was given to us by the American Army as soon as they divided the zones, Austria, you know, French, English, Russian, and American. And we almost all of us came from Mauthausen into the American zone. Everybody wanted there. But they gave us a project that was used for Gäringwerke, which means Gäring, the people that worked for Gäring lived there. So they gave it to us. It was quite big. And everybody had to share 1 bedroom, 2 people. and I shared it with my sister. But my future husband had to share it with a completely stranger. And the first night my husband told me that. My husband is deceased, but my husband told me that. And he said that the first night someone knocked on the door. And when someone knocked on the door, this man said to him, my husband's name was Zygmunt, Ziggy. He said, Ziggy, no, he said, Shittif. Dacht ze me, in Yiddish, dacht ze me klapt.
Can you
Which
translate?
translated means, partner, I think someone is at the door knocking. So my husband answered, open. He said, I don't want to. Well, my husband opened the door, and from that day on, throughout the 4 years in Bina Michel, this man's name was Shittif, which means partner. Nobody ever called him anything but partner.
Shidduch, you mean?
Shittif.
Okay,
sounds very funny.
no, it is funny.
It's funny when it happened,
But the Americans,
but not.
the Americans will read it and they say, Shittif? What's this?
Nobody called him anything.
Did the Americans call him Shidduch too?
They will say,
Everybody.
Yeah, it's a
There
Jew,
was-
it's
there
a
was
Jewish
also-
expression.
There was also one man from Hungary who was very much a nudnik, somebody that bothers the American MPs. He kept on going there and actually snoring things. And so they wanted him out. So he came one day, he said, the funniest thing is that they gave me a new name. What's the new name? The new name is Lasko. Not my name, but Lasko. So we said, what do you mean Lasko? He says, every time I come, they say Lasko, Lasko.
Let's go.
So, actually, what it meant is Lasko, get out, Lasko, Gasko. He didn't realize that they want him out.
Yeah.
Let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Okay, now we'll get back. You were telling me about some transaction with some razor blades. You
Yeah,
want
we
to
had,
give me that story?
At the time we had go to Dachau. Some people who had to testify at the war camp trials, which were at Dachau. So we had an organization there, and people said, oh, in Germany they needed razor blades. We bought some razor blades in the black market and transported in the big suitcases. We went with the American train, they hardly could lift it, they didn't know what it was. And somehow we brought it through and later sold it somewhere in Germany. We had some experience with it, but we went through with it.
Okay, so you made a little money.
Yeah, this was all in the black market.
which is the story you told me where you lost the money?
Oh, it was at one time I bought some, also in the black market, actually I bought some English pounds. English pounds was very thin paper, and they had to be careful that there was some counterfeits. But anyhow, we made a trip to Poland and I wanted to exchange it in Poland for some gold pieces, all in the black market. And I could not do it. And finally I had to exchange it for Polish money. And then I took the Polish money and I gave it to my friend. We went to Vienna and he bought some lingerie for it. After he bought the lingerie there, he took the money and I never saw a penny from it.
I think he had a good time.
He had a good time and, we were there.
So goes life.
Also, at one time we came there, we had bought from Poland some German marks. They were very cheap German marks because it was worthless in Poland. So we bought the stuff, we brought it from Poland and came to Vienna. From there we lived in a hotel and contacted a man from the bank. He came there with a backpack and exchanged it for Austrian shillings. which was the currency at this time in Austria. And from there we changed again in dollars, whatever we could.
So who did you do it with?
And we tried, I took some also to Poland that wanted to buy some different money gold pieces, but to no avail.
Was this dangerous?
Hmm?
Was it dangerous?
It was dangerous at this time because we had to smuggle over the border. Whatever I did, you know, I had like a big backpack in front. It was winter time there. We came to the border police there, and they said, what I took, I said, I'm going to fool them. I took off this backpack, I hanged it up on a clothes rack there, and went to the control, the checkpoint. I said, oh my God, I told them, listen, it's so cold, I guess up there. And I went to control, then I took it back, and we went through. So.
Were you ever nervous?
I was a little nervous, you know, because I had all the money in the backpack there. But we brought it through there.
Now, people did this because they wanted to
have
have a few dollars.
They have to have some capital to exist there too.
Right. But they weren't. You weren't trying to get rich. You were just
no,
trying to
just to have something to live on there.
So do you have more memories of Binter Michel besides you when you would go into the town of Linz?
Yeah.
Besides going under playing games,
Yeah.
do you have any more memories of Linz?
No, nothing in particular.
How about
I have only one memory, that when the bus stopped, instead of calling Bindermichel, they called New Palestine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
because of the camp?
Yeah.
Because of the camp. Because they
They
took
didn't-
this camp from the Austrian people. This was
The Austrian
like
people. But
what
they
they call it?
stopped it. Americans stopped it. Instead of calling Bindermichel stop, you know, the stop was Bindermichel, they called it New Palestine.
Was that sarcastic?
Yeah, of
Sarcastic,
course.
oh, yeah,
Of
sarcastic,
course.
yeah. Of course, simply some Australians still were there.
Was the Austrians, did you experience them as nice?
Hmm?
Did you experience the Austrians as nice?
Some of them, you know, some of them. I had one experience, I had one day, it's really something. One day, somebody pulled up in a limousine, walked out, the big general there was in charge of the UNRWA. All of a sudden I approach the limousine and see the chauffeur just steps out. This chauffeur was a chauffeur in Poland during the war for the company I worked for. So I said, his name was Franz. I said, how do you come here, you know? He lived in Austria, and I asked him about all the other bosses there, because it was the only survivor of this department. They called it Aussiedlungsstelle der Abteilung Arbeit. This translates in English, Department of Labor and Deportation. They organized the liquidation of the ghetto on the end and sent all Russian people, Polish people to Germany for labor. And also they sent the liquidation of the ghetto to the destruction. They sent them to death camps, and I did not know about it.
So now he's a driver for UNRWA?
He all of a sudden wound up, he was a driver for this American general. That was very interesting.
Did you want to report him to somebody?
No, he was not actually in charge of anything, he was just a driver there.
You should have given him a
But
plaque.
no, he was nothing but, you know, he even drove me, I remember at the time when they established the ghetto, they sent me with him to the ghetto, to the Jewish police. They should assign an apartment for my family, you know, to help me out.
So how did you feel when you saw him?
I felt, I was surprised, big surprise. I asking him about the other people. I said, you know, one was Heisig, one was Bindert, and one was Krone. He told me that one man in high sick, he was from Vienna. He was not such a bad man, you know, was a civilian there. He tried to be nice because we worked once, my friend, the electrician, we worked in the apartments, we did this kind of, you know, service work for them, you know, all kind of things.
Now wait.
That's why they needed us.
Are you talking about Bindermichel now?
No,
No.
this was before the
Okay,
establishment of the ghetto. Yeah.
Okay. When you saw him, was he nervous to see you?
No, he was very friendly. I mean, he couldn't do anything, you know.
Right.
Nothing else would be friendly.
Okay.
But I
Now,
was friendly with him all the time, even then.
so did you meet this general, the honorary general?
The general, no.
Okay.
I just saw him, you know, when he stepped out there, you know.
Okay. Now you told me about another experience upstairs about going into a home, a private home, with some American soldiers.
Oh, this was
When did this happen?
This right happened after the liberation, shortly after the liberation.
So that was before you went to Bindermichel?
Yes, went before, right after the liberation.
But was it before you were taken to the first camp?
Right.
Okay.
This was still in Ebensee.
Okay.
We were still in the barracks in Ebensee. So one day, all the prisoners went out to the Germans begging for some food. So we went out there, and the Russians went out. The Russians went out to rob some people there. The Austrians were afraid of the Russians. So I approached one family and I spoke in German to them. And they offered me to stay with them. If I want to stay with them, they will take care of me, they will feed me. And I accepted the offer. Later on, they had to take in some Americans. Their job was to purify the river water, because they were not using the tap water there in their kitchens. So I was very friendly with them, and they gave me some cigarettes, soap, and all this kind of stuff. I even remember the name was somebody. One was James Blaylock, the other one was Lawrence Fisk.
Yes.
I was a lumberjack from California, and the next one, a younger man, was Herbert Platt.
Did you ever?
I was trying to find them. I never could find them.
Oh, you tried to look them
Tried
up.
to locate them, but I was not successful.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I would love to. I just have a picture with James Blaylock, but not with the other ones.
But they were servicemen. You couldn't find them through the armed forces?
No, I don't know from where they came, you know. I just remember I remember just what he told me. He was a lumberjack in San Francisco or something, yeah. This was...
Were they U.S. armed forces, though?
yeah, from the U.S. Army
So
Force, right.
that's the way to have
Yeah.
tried to find them, but...
Maybe someday, if they're still alive.
Yes.
The young fella is probably alive. Herbert Platt, he's probably still alive. I would like to find him, if he would remember me altogether.
I
have
bet.
a picture there from one.
I bet. But, okay, so this was before you went into that first...
Yeah, this was the first experience,
first
right
experience.
after the liberation.
And you were by yourself.
Yes.
And then you went back to Evansay to
Evans
only to
back,
be
and
taken.
later on we moved out from there. I remember we had some friends, they had already an apartment in Linz. Excuse me. So we went there, and from there on, I think we tried to go to Czechoslovakia, but we couldn't get through the border. Summer, excuse me. I think summer later, this landing was established. I don't recall anymore exactly.
What friends had apartments in Linz?
Beg your pardon?
What friends had apartments in Linz?
Name was Henrik Fuchs with some friends. I don't remember the other friend's name.
How do you remember the names?
And they took us in there. Yeah, they were my friends, good friends.
Where did they end up? What country?
They ended up, unfortunately, my friend Henrik Fuchs, he ended up in Canada. He came to the United States, to Florida. He had an apartment in Florida, in Hallandale. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was a very good friend, and his brother, I remember his brother in still, excuse me,
You
in
want
Plaszow.
You want some water?
There was something at the time.
No.
There was times that his brother, they lived where they were in Plaszow. They were in a salt mine. I was working in a salt mine in Krakow still. After they liquidated, after they said the Russians come in close, so they tried to take them out of the salt mine and brought them back to Plaszow. But he and his friend, they tried to hide in the salt mine. And they brought them back to Plaszow and they hanged them. But my friend was a very, very strong boy there. He stood up and said, "You hang me now, but you're going to hang later."
Oh,
And this would happen. He was a good friend of mine. This was also a Scenic Fuchs.
Okay, I'm going to go back. We're
Yeah.
to take you after the Holocaust.
After the Holocaust.
After the Holocaust.
Yeah.
In the, who did you say that you lived with? Your roommate?
My roommate
In Bindermichel.
in Bindermichel, I lived with my mother, my sister, and my aunt.
Okay. For the whole time?
Yes, until we emigrated to the United States.
But
No,
you
then
must
we
have
went to Ebelsberg.
And when you got married, you,
Married, moved to Ebelsberg.
you need some water?
Yeah, maybe some water there.
You want me to stop?
Yeah, for a minute.
Okay.